Okay, let's dive in. We've got a stack of source material today, and it's all about, well, one of the hottest topics going, how AI is really shaking up software development. Our mission, like always on the deep dive,
Yeah.
just to cut through the noise, pull out the really core stuff from these sources, and get you up to speed fast, hopefully with a few aha moments too. So specifically, our sources today are coming right from the top. We're looking at insights from Thomas Dohmke. He's the CEO of GitHub, and it's focused particularly on GitHub Copilot and, his view on where the future of code is actually heading. This is based on a recent article laying out his thoughts.
That's right. We're really zooming in on how these powerful AI coding agents are changing the game. We'll pull out the key bits of knowledge straight from this source to really get a handle on the impact now, but also like where things might be going, according to someone right at the heart of it all.
And what's kind of interesting right off the bat from this source is the starting point. It's a little surprising, actually. Even the CEO himself wasn't totally sold at first.
Yeah, let's unpack that. That initial reaction mentioned in the article back in, 2020, when Thomas Dohmke first saw those early GPT models for coding, like GPT-3, Codex Writ, he was, well, pretty skeptical. He genuinely doubted they could really nail programming syntax correctly, especially across different languages.
Right, and the big surprise was they could. The model did manage to write functional code with the right syntax. It wasn't, working like a traditional compiler or anything, but still produced correct code. That was a huge early aha moment. It sort of signaled, okay, this tech understands code maybe deeper than we thought.
Okay, so moving on from that skepticism, the source talks about some frankly staggering data from Copilot's internal testing. This is before the big public release. The telemetry showed Copilot was already generating something like 25% of the code in active files. Just think about that. A quarter of the code just appearing via AI before most people even had access. Yeah, that's kind of nuts. And what's really telling, the article points this out, is how developers reacted. That Net Promoter Score, the NPS, it was around 72, which is, exceptionally high for developers. They're often, let's be honest, pretty resistant to tools messing with their workflow, right?
Definitely. So why did it land so well?
Well, the source says developers saw it as basically magic because it wasn't just simple text completion. It offered genuinely useful, context-aware code suggestions. It felt helpful.
Okay, so let's dig into why Copilot felt so good to use. The source points to a really key design decision, that familiar tab completion interface. Developers already knew it, yeah. From tools like IntelliSense they use constantly in their IDEs.
Exactly. And that simple interface, it shortcuts a common developer behavior, copying code from Stack Overflow or GitHub.
Oh yeah, copy-paste tweak, the classic oath.
Right. Copilot basically automates a lot of that, bringing relevant code right into the editor.
And the result, the article highlights this, is developers stay in the zone, that flow state.
Which is where the real creative work happens, Less context switching means more focus, boost productivity and creativity.
Okay, but here's a really critical point from the source addressing that big elephant in the room. Even with AI writing chunks of code, Thomas Dohmke is apparently adamant. Kids still need to learn core programming.
Yeah, he puts it right up there with, learning math or physics. It's fundamental.
And the reasoning, according to the article, isn't necessarily about turning everyone into a pro developer. It's more that understanding code is just crucial for understanding how our modern world actually functions.
And arguably, it's even more important now, especially with these newer AI agents, like the GitHub coding agent mentioned, that can actually go in and change existing code bases. If an AI is editing your code, you absolutely have to understand what that code does for validation, for security, just for basic trust.
You need to know if the change is good or if it's, introducing a massive vulnerability.
Precisely.
So the source frames these AI tools less as replacements and more like a craft partner. Is that the term?
Yeah, I like that framing. Programming is a craft, and the article emphasizes developers still need those core skills.
Like what, specifically?
Well, judgment, basically.
Right.
Knowing when to lean on the AI. Knowing when your prompt is just too vague or messy to get anything useful back. And crucially, being able to break down big, complex problems into smaller chunks the AI can actually help with. That's still a human skill.
So the message from the source seems clear. Augment, don't replace.
Yeah.
These tools help engineers. They don't make them obsolete.
Exactly. And the article lists some concrete examples, helping with boilerplate code, the repetitive setup stuff.
Oh, yeah. Nobody likes writing that.
Right. Also generating specs for features or even drafting pull requests to speed things up. It takes away some of the drudgery.
Okay, moving beyond the direct coding help, The source also mentions a strategic move by GitHub, open sourcing the Copilot VS Code extension.
Yeah, under the MIT license, which is pretty permissive.
Why do they do that?
The article suggests a few reasons. 1, encourage people to experiment with it, build on it. 2, make it easier to integrate Copilot into other editors, not just VS Code. 3, lower the barrier for others to contribute features. And just generally build community around it.
Makes sense.
Plus, apparently the community was already kind of reverse engineering it anyway, so it felt like a natural step to just open it up.
Gotcha. Okay, now here's where the source material gets really forward-looking. The predictions for the future. Thomas Dohmke's vision. AI agents as the main interface. He uses that Iron Man Jarvis analogy.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool vision. He talks about apps potentially being generated on the fly, like you need something specific, the agent builds it, you use it once, and then poof, it's gone. Ephemeral software.
Whoa, the example from the source was like a parent making a quick one-off app just to track their kid's allowance.
Exactly, something you'd never bother building manually today. But an AI could whip it up instantly for that single purpose.
That changes things.
And it goes further. He imagines different agents for different parts of your life, a work agent, personal agent, maybe a travel agent. And the key thing, as the article details, is that these agents can talk to each other, coordinate.
So you could tell your personal agent, book a vacation,
Yeah.
and it connects with your work agent for your calendar, your travel agent for flights, all seamlessly.
That's the idea presented in the source, yeah.
Yeah.
A sort of interconnected web of specialized AI helpers.
The article also mentioned 2 specific modes of AI development that Copilot supports. First was vibe coding.
Yeah, vibe coding. Described as this sort of fast, loose, conversational way to prototype. Good for brainstorming, getting initial ideas down quickly, exploring concepts without getting stuck on the nitty-gritty details early on.
And the other mode, agentic DevOps. Sounds more serious.
It is. That's about AI agents working in proper production environments. Not just suggesting code snippets, but helping run tests, check for security flaws, manage deployments. Basically, assisting across the whole software lifecycle in a more automated, robust way. And the source says Copilot aims to support both these approaches.
But the source isn't all hype, right? It acknowledges limits, challenges.
Oh, absolutely. It mentions there's still a complexity ceiling. Agents are good, but they currently struggle with, say, building really massive, scalable systems from scratch, or integrating complex things like identity providers, the systems that handle user logins and permissions. That stuff is still tricky for AI.
And what areas for improvement does the article list?
Things like getting agents to better understand large existing code bases, that's a big one. Improving how they call external tools or APIs. And critically, building better safety nets. Rollback mechanisms, ways to ensure the AI doesn't accidentally break everything.
There's also this interesting paradox mentioned, the future being both fragmented and unified. How does that work?
Well, fragmented because you'll likely interact with lots of different specialized agents, like the source suggests. GitHub Copilot for coding, maybe Hey Mercedes in the car, something else for your smart home.
Right. Different tools for different jobs.
But unified because, according to the source's vision, there will be underlying protocols allowing these agents to communicate. So your personal agent, your work agent, specific task agents, they might all speak a kind of common language to coordinate complex tasks across domains.
Okay, let's circle back to the big question. Jobs. The source touches on AI's impact there. It sounds hopeful.
It does strike a hopeful note. It acknowledges, yes, some jobs might be impacted or even replaced, things that are very repetitive, maybe certain kinds of manual testing or basic translation. But the strong counterpoint presented in the article is that more jobs will likely be created. The core idea is that AI, and tools like Copilot specifically, are actually democratizing software development, lowering the barrier to entry.
Making it possible for more people to build things.
Exactly. The source puts forward this powerful idea. Copilot potentially opens the door for anyone, anywhere in the world, regardless of their native language or technical background, to become a builder, to create software, solve problems with tech.
That's a pretty profound shift.
It really is. So if we recap the main takeaways from this source material, coding agents aren't just tools, they're becoming collaborators, learning core CS fundamentals, more vital than ever because you need to guide the AI. And the future vision is agent-rich, super personalized, integrated, and potentially unlocks a ton of new creative possibilities.
Right, which leaves us with a really interesting thought for you, the listener, to chew on after hearing all this from the source. If we really lean into this vision of personalized throwaway apps generated instantly by coordinating AI agents, what does coding even really mean in that world? And maybe more excitingly, what kinds of completely new things could we build? What problems could we solve when the actual act of writing the code becomes so much easier or even automated? Lots to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We hope you found it insightful.